So, another episode of My Hero Academia Vigilantes has come out, and I'm here to do my breakdown and review of it. Hey guys, how's it going? It is your boy, Manga Man Drew, and I'm here to tackle everything that you may have missed in this episode, from the cutscenes that we didn't get from the manga to the new additions that were added to the anime. All of that and more is what we're going to be talking about today, so let's just dive right into the breakdown. So this episode, titled B, takes its name from manga chapter 5 of My Hero Academia Vigilantes, and this episode covers material from chapters 4 to 5. And the episode begins with Koichi in class, which is actually an anime original scene about him learning about the history of heroes and vigilantes, which is going to be a crucial part of this series when it comes to what it means to be a pro hero and what it means to be a vigilante. And as we see the scene, we also get to see him return home to find a random old man in his home that is later revealed to be Knuckle Duster without his vigilante's disguise. And this is very important because this scene is actually shortened from what we get in the manga and what we're going to get with the next sequences with the introduction of Pop after the OP, that there has been a lot of cut scenes from this sequence from the manga to the anime. Because as we get the reveal of Popstep in her normal school and quote-unquote plain appearance, we get a lot more establishing the character interactions between Koichi, Popstep, and Knuckle Duster. And while this is in the manga, I very much want to say that I love how the series is able to have these three main characters of this series interact so well within these moments of downtime. And because this is moments of downtime, we get to see what they're doing outside of their vigilante personas, with Knuckle Duster having a job, Popstep obviously being a student, and Koichi not only going to college, but also still having a job. And this is the point when I bring out is that we unfortunately cut the sequence of the manga where we see Koichi trying to have his college debut by cleaning up his new apartment that is a little bit sketchy, trying to introduce some fellow students to actually come there, that creeps him out and makes him become a pariah at his college and makes him feel so much lonely with how much space he actually has in his new place. However, while those scenes are not included in the anime, what is included is a reused new sequence of Koichi in his actual family mart uniform at his job, as we have the added scene of Koichi reflecting on these anime only still shots of him imagining what his life could have been if he had friends and was able to hang out with people at his own place, which is actually a good substitute for what was in the manga because it pretty much conveys the same information just within a shorter and more compact period. And that's going to most likely be a running theme with Vigilantes, where it's going to cut a lot of stuff from the manga because the manga is significantly more dense than the My Hero Academia manga proper, but they're going to change it in a way to make it a little bit more palatable for an anime setting, which is something that I give great credit to. And just tying more into that idea with the new added scene of Koichi, we also get an extended scene that we see in the manga of Popstep's concert, where in the manga, it's only like a few panels before we're introduced to the reoccurring characters of Ichimoku as well as Jude. But we also get to see and hear her sing and dance and perform a lot more in the anime than what we get in the manga, which gives me hope for what we're going to be getting in the future when it comes to Popstep's performance. But like I said, in this episode, this is where we get the actual proper introduction of Wolverine, Jotaro, as well as Josuke, Cyclops, as they actually introduce the main antagonistic person in the first part of this episode, which we're later going to learn that his name is Teru. And we see that all three of them are big fans of Popstep. However, Teru is going to actually use the trigger drug to make himself go full eel and goes on a rampage trying to chase Popstep just for a handshake. But thanks to a plan concocted by Koichi as well as Knuckle Duster, they were able to stop him from doing anything worse. And I want to bring up this part because we do get a little bit more or less proper animation with more still shots of Pop Step trying to avoid the eel. However, I will give credit to the anime, even with these still shots, we still get a fair amount of decent and somewhat fluid animation, especially from the eel guy with how he moves and trying to chase Pop Step. But even with that, what this scene also shows is a great way to transition Pop Step to go back to Koichi's place, because Koichi and Knuckle Duster's plan involved causing the eel to dry out, which makes him easier to punch and beat down, but also covers Pop Step and Flower, which leads us to getting more interactions that we saw in the manga of them interacting in Koichi's place, sort of like a friendly unit, which actually is great for Koichi's character, because while it's not the type of interactions he thought that he would be having in college, it's something that he very much values when it comes to interacting with the people that he's beginning to care about, not just as vigilantes, but also potentially as friends. But now we get to the second part of the episode, which actually starts off with the return of Tsukachi and a new reoccurring detective character, Tanume. And from this sequence, all they're really discussing is what is happening with this version of the trigger drug and who's behind it. And this is very cool because it shows more of the detective and more mystery side that we're going to be dealing with the series of Vigilantes, as well as just showing how more non-quirk, non-pro heroes are going to be more and heavily involved in this series in comparison to the main series. But something else that is also interesting is the cut sequences that we got between Tsukachi and Tanumi. It's very unfortunate that the scenes or the panels for the manga are not added to the anime. That adds a little bit more context to the conversation and really adds to the conclusion that Tsukachi comes to. Tsukachi is actually cut primarily from this sequence to allow for the story to flow better and to really pick up the pace. Because all he really does from the cut scenes is interview the eel boy as well as the man that they arrested, as well as imply that he's going to be following the eel individual. However, we don't see him anywhere in that chapter or in this episode, so it's kind of fine that that sequence was cut. And speaking of that, this sequence with Tsukachi actually leads to Pop Step and Koichi being told about what's going on with the eel boy, potentially giving them more information about the trigger drug and how they're going to meet Teru along with Ichimoki and Jubei as they're going to meet up to help them gather more information. And this is where we get to see more of Koichi and Pop Step alone and getting to see their interactions together, as we also get to see how Pop Step, while not a worldwide celebrity, is still well known enough for a random girl to come up to her and take a selfie with her, which very much like in the manga and in the anime is a very much calculated scene that reveals the main antagonistic force that we're going to be following, if not in this season, in the next part of the season as well. And we get revealed on who this character is, which is Queen Hachisuka, who is revealed to be not just a part-time villain, but also has the quirk Queen Bee, which from what we can glean from just this episode alone, so I won't get into spoilers, she's able to control bees that come out of her eye that are loaded with most likely the trigger drug with a potential hive mind that she's able to control with ease. But we also learn later on in the episode that if one of those bees get damaged, it directly affects her as well. So she is a villain that you would like to keep an actual eye on for what she's going to be doing in the future, as well as her interactions and her relationships to the other characters on the Naruto Vigilantes. And we also get the reveal of the city where My Hero Academia Vigilantes is located, which is Naruhata, which, for those who don't know, is most likely just a district of Tokyo in Japan. But going back with Queen, when it comes to Koichi and Pop Step, after they are reunited with Ichimoku, as we get his proper introduction here, as they wait for his other friends to arrive, Queen uses the bees that came out of her eye to inject random civilians with trigger drug, which forces their quirks to go wild and crazy. And this sequence in the anime is very well done and adapted, and in my opinion looks even more horrifying and gruesome and dangerous in the anime than in the manga, because we get to see the people look like they're in more pain in the anime than what we got in the manga. And because of this unfortunately gets the attention of not just the vigilantes, but the pro heroes as well. And I can try to list all of the pro heroes that we see, but for the most part, we get main reoccurring characters like Endeavor, Midnight, as well as present like Eraserhead. We also get to see Death Arms, Best Jeanist, and so many more heroes. But what was even more fun about their introduction is how it's very much a one-for-one adaptation of the manga panels that we got in chapter 5. But they're still fairly well animated with great transitions, while hiding more of the limited animation is still animated spectacularly, so I want to give praise for that. And how with this fight and even All Might coming in and swooping in defeating the bigger villain, the pro heroes save the day in less than a few seconds. But it's later revealed that this was actually most likely a distraction to separate Tero from the rest of the group, as we get to see Queen taking him away, implying that this was all a part of her plan, as well as the last part of this episode hinting that Knuckle Duster may know a lot more about Queen than he's letting on by capturing and destroying the bee as the episode ends. But yeah, this was a great episode. It moved a little bit slower than the previous episodes, but we still got a fair amount of action and fun comedic moments from the characters. And seeing the previews for the next episode, we're going to probably get introduced to one of my favorite pro heroes reintroduced into this series, Ingenium, and his interactions with Koichi as well. So yeah, that's pretty much all I really have to say about the episode. So let me ask you this: how did you feel about the episode? Did you like it? Did you dislike it? And was there anything in the episode that I may have missed? Leave your thoughts down below, and don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel for more content like this. Do all that cool jazz, and hopefully I'll be able to catch you in my next video. Goodbye!